Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Thursday. All of the guests today, as usual, brought to you by the Vancouver Giants, the G-Men, with a pair of games at the LEC this weekend. Tomorrow night they take on Everett at 7 p.m., and on Sunday, Seattle is in town for a 4 o'clock puck drop. A reminder, every Sunday afternoon game is followed by a family post-game skate. Head to VancouverGiants.com to get tickets for those games. And a reminder, Teddy Bear Toss coming up December the 14th against Victoria. Cameron Schmidt had a nice goal the other night in that Prospects Challenge.
You know what? And people, think he's going to be a second-round pick in the NHL draft this summer, Ryan. But that kid, he's going to sneak into the first round. You watch.
Yeah, I mean, he's and we know what Craig Button thinks of him as well.
Craig loves him.
All right, let's bring in our good pal from TSN, Farhan Lalji. Farhan, how are you, sir?
Good. So two things. As we come in from break, I'm actually hearing a count. I'm hearing a lovely young lady.
Oh, that's Nina.
3, 2. Yeah, so that's what a professional producer and director does.
Shot at him.
So that's generally what we hear.
There's Nina there.
You replacing Donnie in order for me to get a pro in the background, number one. And number two, you're not only filling in for Donnie, you're driving the bus. Dollywall, how lazy are you that you make him drive the bus? In addition, you should be sliding over into the bus driver's chair. And
listen, Farhan, in life, you have to know your role and identity. I'm not a bus driver. I've never been one. I've told all my bosses I have no desire to be a bus driver. And you know what? Right. I told this guy's doing a wonderful job. Donnie's the best bus driver in the city, but I told this guy, you got to do it because that's not my cup of tea. I hate it.
He's so old that he's got the bus with the old, poles that connect to the wires.
Yeah.
So, like the old ones. That's Donnie.
Not even a bus. It's just a horse and a carriage. That's what Donnie's usually used to.
Yeah, you're more SkyTrain guy, Henderson.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so first of all, the sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Tell us about the sweatshirt. The H, I'm going to guess it's for Hayax.
Harvard.
Yeah.
No, not for Harvard.
Well, Harvard would be crimson.
I don't think you had the marks to go to Harvard, believe me.
Oh, wow. Says the guy that's winning.
Yeah, I don't think.
Secondary.
I don't think you went to Harvard.
I did not go to Harvard. I went to a school dumb enough to drop football because Harvard has football.
Oh, yeah.
And SFU doesn't. But the Hayax, junior varsity provincial championship game tomorrow at 7:30 at BC Place. So this year they actually split up the games. Normally we play 5 games across the course of a day, but Taylor Swift is coming.
Right.
You might have heard of this. So they have asked us to be out of BC Place early on Saturday so that the Taylor Swift crew can come in. So the varsity games, including the All-Star game, are earlier on Saturday. The main game, the AAA final, starts at 3:30, but the JV games have been moved to Friday. So they gave us the extra day. So thanks to BC Place for letting us do that. And my Hayax get to play at 7:30 on Friday night. I can't wait.
Well, good luck to the Hayax. Speaking of Taylor Swift, are you going to be in attendance for one of those shows?
Wouldn't shock me.
I had tickets. I got tickets for myself and my lovely daughter, Nora.
You're right.
But then it was pretty evident that Nora was going to enjoy it more going with someone other than her dad. Her 56-year-old dad.
Yes.
So a very good family friend named Ava is going to accompany my daughter. The Canucks play that night, so I will drive them there earlier in the evening and take them home. It'll be a lot longer than what a Canuck game would look like. So I'm going to be driving rather than attending. I'm quite disappointed because I was looking forward to going, but this is about my daughter. In fact, the day before, she's going to Ava's place, and they're going to make bracelets together.
Wow.
They're going to do all the Taylor Swift stuff, and then I'll take them to the concert on Friday.
Okay, so you mentioned the Canucks there, Farhan. Lose 5-4 to Pittsburgh last night. What did you think of the effort and the loss by the Canucks?
Well, they didn't show up ready to play. In the first period of that game, they looked awful. They looked sloppy. They looked careless. Things we haven't seen from this team on the road, quite frankly. And Artur Shilov wasn't in a position to bail them out. Now, look, there were a couple goals that he could do nothing about, but there were probably 2 or 3 that I think he could have done something about. And so they need some better goaltending when he's there. We saw what Lankinen did yesterday. Not yesterday, 2 days ago now, but the first end of the back-to-back and how good he looked. But, there was sloppy down low coverage, poor tracking, back pressure from the forwards. It was leading to odd man rushes. They look sloppy, they look careless, and that's what we haven't seen from this team is a level of consistency. Yet they're managing to get points like everyone else. I believe when everybody gets back into the lineup, they're going to get better. But right now, they're just inconsistent.
So can you explain to me this change in Artur Silovs? Like the playoff,
I can't.
Is it just completely what's in front of him? Is that the easiest way to explain it?
No, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. I think some of this is on him, right? I mean, and we know what this team has been over the course of time. And, even in Rick Tocchet's tenure, they haven't been perfect because they have some imperfect players, right? Like, it's just the way it goes. They may have gotten a lot more out of, say, Soucy and Myers a year ago than they are currently getting. But, there is a certain – they need help on the back end. Like, they just do, right? So it's imperfect. But in terms of Silovs, I just think last year he played with zero level of pressure. I think he didn't know what he didn't know. And he came in this year with some expectation. There was an understanding that this was going to be his job to lose. And they brought in Kevin Lankinen, and very quickly Silovs lost it, right? And I'm not, it's a great thing they brought in Lankinen because they clearly needed him. But, when we saw last year, the hole in his game in the playoffs was shots from distance, right? He didn't necessarily track pucks well and look around screens well enough. But that was really fixable. Now we're seeing a lot of other things, especially the goalmouth play, the down-low play, where he's just not able to control pucks or not able to just be big and block pucks in those situations. But I just think he's playing with zero confidence, right? And he's not getting enough time to build any kind of a rhythm, which is nobody's fault, right? Like, that's the life of a backup. I think he kind of came in thinking he would get more, and it didn't earn more. So I just think more than anything else, he's playing with a lack of confidence. He even admitted it in his post-game comments that, you give up a goal early, and he feels that, right? So he's not in a position yet to just kind of dig in. So I'm curious to see what happens when Demko comes back, because the Canucks talked in training camp about wanting to carry 3 goaltenders. But this is a guy that needs games, and he needs a reset, and he needs it in Abbotsford. So do you just bring him in for practices when you're at home to limit Thatcher Demko's practice workload and then let him get his games in? I'm curious to see how they handle the third goaltender, because that's clearly what Silovs has become.
Hey, Farhan, let's switch over to the BC Lions. The Vernon Adams trade. They had to get rid of the contract. A lot of people were upset with the return, but they didn't realize Calgary was assuming a massive contract with a massive signing bonus coming up as well.
Yeah, and that's a standard contract for a starting quarterback, and that's just why we knew there was no way they were going to bring them both back. They had to move one, and ultimately, in terms of the return, it comes down to market, right? So in Edmonton, they're trying to create a scenario that revolves around Trey Ford, whether he's the starter or the 1A competing with a 1B. In Saskatchewan, they want to keep going with Trevor Harris. They like how he played last year. Fits the organization. And you can make a case in those markets. There's some criticism that they didn't try to get younger with a guy like VA, or they didn't try to get more established in Edmonton with a guy like VA. But ultimately those organizations made those decisions. So the Canucks could have waited, played a game of chicken with Calgary, and who has leverage when? Because if all of a sudden Trey Ford gets signed by Edmonton and Trevor Harris gets signed by Saskatchewan within the next 2 weeks, and Bo Levi signs in Hamilton, now the Canucks are navel-gazing, and Calgary's going to say, wait, we'll wait for you to release him. So that pick is a 9th. It could turn into an 8th, because when the Lions lose their first-round pick because of salary cap penalties, everyone else will move up a spot. So it'll be the 8th overall pick, I think, when the dust settles. And, first-round draft pick is reasonable return for a player like that.
The new coach, they're doing interviews right now. The Eskimos are looking for a new coach, OCDC. The new coach has got to decide also, Farhan, 20-plus free agents. Who do you want to keep? Who do you want to keep? Who you don't want to keep? What's the latest on the coaching search?
Well, I think they've gone through all their first set of interviews, right, in terms of everything they've done virtually. And if you're in town, they may have allowed you in person, but most of them have been virtual, and they've gone through that, and now they'll shortlist. And the 2 main candidates are going to be on the offensive side, and Buck Pierce and Jordan McSimmick. But I also think that 2 guys with special teams backgrounds, Mark Killam, who I think is getting very serious consideration in Edmonton. Don't think Rick Campbell is a slam dunk there. I think Mark Killam is right in that conversation. I think he's right in the BC conversation. And our good friend Mike Benavides, I think, is right in the Lions conversation as well. So, and the interesting part is a lot of these coaches have similar coaching staffs that they're projecting to these GMs, saying, if I can if I get the job, this is who I'm bringing. If I get the job, this is who I'm bringing. So it'll be curious to see where all four of these men land and who they bring in around them to be assistant coaches. But don't sleep on those two special teams guys and assume it's going to be one of the offensive guys that gets hired in BC.
How do you like your Huskies' chances against number 1 Oregon on the weekend?
Got to admit, it's going to be tough, but yeah, it's going to be tough. I'm excited to see Damon Williams, right? The freshman quarterback who's been getting more and more playing time. They haven't announced their starter, but I hope he starts. He's an exciting guy, and I think he can make it scary for them. And I think they'll be in a position to keep up. Rivalry games are a funny thing, guys, and Oregon's got nothing to play for because they're already in the Big Ten championship game. So on the surface, it's going to be tough, but I think Washington can make it interesting. For maybe 3 quarters, and then we'll see if the noose tightens around the Ducks because the Huskies are just they're a better program. We love Seattle better than Austin. Yep. They've had a slight step back. Washington's won 5 of the last 8. Right? The Oregon guys are funny because if you're an Oregon fan, they sit there and say, "Oh yeah, enjoy your little 3-game win streak that you've had." Well, we won the final Pac-12 championship ever, and then we've won 5 of the last 8, and history's a funny thing. You know who the most important person is in the entire state of Oregon's history? It's a guy named Kenny Wheaton, who used to play defensive back for the Toronto Argos. And the reason why Kenny Wheaton is the most famous person in Oregon history is because he ended an epic Oregon losing streak to Washington with a pick 6. And people remember Kenny Wheaton, but they forget why. Because, this has been a real rivalry for a long time, and Washington's had the better of him lately. And, hey, you never know what happens on Saturday. I'm excited to watch it.
Well, good luck to your Huskies, but more importantly, good luck to your High Axe tomorrow night, right? You said tomorrow night, Friday night?
Tomorrow night against VC. Yeah,
right.
They'll be in tough too, but we're pulling for both underdogs.
Well, good luck to them, and Farhan Donnie will be back next week. I know he'll be happy, and I'll count you in next week. I promise.
Yeah, Nina, great job. Don't put up with any of the BS from these guys. You're doing great.
Thank you, Farhan. Appreciate it. Talk to you next week.
See you guys.